All right, guys, when it comes to what's going on in politics today, 11 million job openings so far and growing. Most individuals aren't taking advantage of it. We're going to talk about that as well as give you a little bit more update on when and what to expect with the cost of living increase, since we already know that it's 5.9%. And also we're going to discuss the impact of inflation on those that are still in the middle class. We know many individuals have lost their homes, their savings, their vehicles, their way of life based off of what took place over the last couple of years with the pandemic. However, a lot of people have been able to sustain themselves. We're going to hear about how they've been able to do that here on Mostly Money. Well, my name is Andre. You're watching Mostly Money, where you're going to get all facts. No fake, no phony, and no fluffed up information when it comes to what's going on in politics today. And if you are interested in getting this information on a daily basis, now all you got to do for yourself is one thing: subscribe. Click that bell notification so you get the latest and greatest information coming from Mostly Money, because we're going to always be here for you and your loved ones. Let's get started. Yes, when it comes to the job market, we've had over 4 million plus individuals walk away from their old job that they had before the pandemic and decide to go into new careers. Well, this has left a void. A couple of months ago, it was just 8 million jobs that were open. Now it's 9 million and counting, all the way up to 11 million jobs right now that's been announced that are open right now. You can go into most major cities and actually see all the help wanted signs that are available. But why is this?
A new report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics finds that a whopping 4.3 million Americans decided to quit their jobs in August. And guess what? That trend continues even though the federally subsidized unemployment benefits expired more than a month ago. So what's going on here? Now, in August, some 892,000 workers quit accommodation and food services jobs, and 721,000 quit retail positions, and that's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics data. The healthcare sector also took a hit. 534,000 US workers resigned or quit from healthcare and social assistance positions. And no, the healthcare workers didn't quit due to vaccine mandates. They quit because they're overworked, understaffed, and they want better working conditions, they want better pay. In fact, I'll get to that in just a second. But first, a few more figures for you. Meanwhile, the 7.7 million people who remain unemployed aren't, for the most part, jumping at the roughly 10.4 million job openings, leaving businesses or business after business with help wanted placards in their windows. And I'm pretty sure that you can see it if you're taking a walk in town. You'll notice those signs at windowsills, and people are like, well, what's going on? Why aren't people going back to work? I mean, everyone was so certain it had to do with the federally subsidized unemployment benefits, right? Everyone was so certain that it was because Americans were just lazy, they were couch potatoes, they didn't want to go back to work, and that the federal government was enabling them to do it. But it turns out that is not the case. Americans want better pay, they want better working conditions, and they need childcare, something that's offered through the budget reconciliation bill, which of course has a shaky future considering the fact that we have bought off corporate Democrats in the Senate that are standing in the way of the passage of that bill. Now, again, let me just really emphasize the point that those unemployment benefits had nothing to do with workers and their hesitation in taking these low-paying jobs. In fact, Mark Zandi from Moody's Analytics says, I'm sure that some economists someday, digging through some data, will be able to prove there was some effect on the margin of the supplemental unemployment insurance, but it's really on the margins. On the top 10 list of reasons why people have been slow to get back to work, that might be number 10. Now, why are people refusing to go back to work? Why are people quitting? Well, why don't we hear from the workers themselves?
In the last year, the rate at which workers ages 30 to 45 resigned rose by over 20%. Some of the hardest hit sectors: healthcare and tech. The specific reasons, first and foremost perhaps, burnout.
Your staffing is at an all-time low. The morale is at an all-time low. It's traumatic, it's stressful. We're at a breaking point.
We don't want to do this anymore.
They just didn't care about me anymore.
I'm done. I am not working here anymore. I don't feel safe.
Workers like these are quitting their jobs at the highest rate in 20 years. Because for many of us, the pandemic has prompted a professional reassessment. So says Harvard Business School's Sidal Neely.
We cannot underestimate the extent to which people have experienced such stress, such anxiety, and a ton of burnout in the last 18, 19 months. That is also driving their interest to say, I don't want this lifestyle as it is. I want to change it.
It is finally time for change. Finally, the employee is in control and not the employer. Finally, individuals that want to have a raise, that want to have better working conditions, as they mentioned, as well as have better pay coming in the door, those opportunities are going to be there. There's going to be some major changes in a lot of companies when it comes to hiring and keeping staff. So if you're looking for a company to work for or a new career, this is the time to go for it. If you're looking for another job or a second job, this is definitely the time to look for another job, because they realize this: if you walk out the door as a candidate and they don't hire you, even if you don't have all the experience that they need, they know that they're losing out and you aren't. And the next thing we're going to discuss is the cost of living increase. We know that it's 5.9% in regards to the cost of living adjustment for those that are on SSI, SSDI, disabled, VAs, retired railroad, representative payee, as well as those that are survivors. We know that you are going to be receiving an increase starting in December. For those of us that don't know how it works, so when January checks come or deposits come through, you will be seeing that 5.9% increase. However, the way that the rate of inflation is going, economists are saying this: you may actually be seeing another 6% increase in 2023, based off the rate of inflation and how fast inflation is steady fluctuating and going up. Inflation is not going down anytime too soon, and it will surpass the number of 5.3%, which means that as long as inflation is high, no matter what takes place, the cost of living adjustment will continue to increase. So that would be great to have a 5.9% increase for this year that's up and coming, and in 2023 see another 5 to 6% increase take place. You guys need it and you guys deserve it because you work so hard for it. And speaking of increases, when it comes to the middle class, most individuals have lost out a lot, as I mentioned before, but there are those of us that said that, things just aren't that bad.
In Consumer Watch, the majority of middle-income families feel good about their financial situation, even as inflation drives up costs on necessities. According to a new survey by Primerica, 65% say they feel positive about where they are, but the same amount of people also said their income is falling behind the cost of living. For more on this survey and what these numbers mean, let's bring in Primerica CEO Glenn Williams. So Glenn, I'm hoping you can break down these numbers for us. How is it that the same amount of people say they feel good about their financial situation and that their income isn't keeping up with the cost of living at the same time?
It was one of the interesting results of the survey this go around. We've done the survey 4 times during the pandemic, trying to keep our finger on the pulse of the middle income's attitudes toward their finances. And we've been amazed each time at how optimistic middle income families have been financially, particularly during some very difficult times. But also this time it really struck us of the rising concern about inflation. And as you note from the stats, you mentioned, interestingly, an equal percentage said they feel great, but at the same time, they're falling behind. They're feeling the impact of a rising cost of both necessities and what I would call near necessities. And so once again, it's one of the interesting observations of how we have defense mechanisms in place to stay positive and have a great outlook. but recognize the real challenges that middle-income families are facing.
The vast majority of families surveyed said that they noticed the cost of several necessities, such as groceries, gas, healthcare, going up. I know because I just bought a whole bunch of back-to-school items, so I saw that price tag. We know that the pandemic is certainly having an effect. It's a factor, but what else is impacting the middle-income families?
We see middle-income families, and we're in their homes thousands of times each week at Primerica, helping them financially. And we see that they live very close to the edge, very close to a tipping point, and every dollar is very, very important. And so that's why I believe they're very frugal by nature. They're always looking for ways to redeploy and reprioritize their money. And when something like the necessities of gasoline or food, those types of things go up, of course, some that are out in the market changing residences, either renting or buying or finding that cost increase, but not everyone experiences that every week. It's more the weekly and daily necessities that are really having the impact on attitudes that we see. And what that does is that causes middle income families to have to reprioritize their finances and make some tough decisions on where they can cut back to accommodate for the rising prices. And then as they're trying to make progress financially over time, where they can reprioritize to do the things they need to do, like protect their families and save for the future. It's a very difficult set of circumstances right now out in the middle market.
So let's dive deeper into the cost of, for example, groceries. Those costs have been increasing. That's something everybody needs. More than 90% of families say the cost of food has gone up. And your survey found more people are concerned about being able to pay for groceries over the past year. Explain that anxiety, and can these families expect any relief in the near future?
Well, it's been interesting as well, because we've also asked for attitudes around the safety nets that have been in place and the types of assistance that's been provided to middle-income families and all families over time. And of course, that's been appreciated, and I think it has been helpful. Families have used some of the finances that are made available to them through the government, not only to cover necessities, but also to save and do some game planning around their finances, which has been important for them for the future. But now I think we're seeing the safety nets are coming to an end to a certain extent, and at the same time, they're seeing these prices rising significantly in a lot of cases in the things that they have to buy each and every day. And it's a new conundrum. Our survey results show that people were becoming more optimistic as they felt like perhaps the pandemic was easing and life was going to return to normal. And it appears to us, based on these findings, that the inflation challenge kind of came out of the blue at them. They weren't expecting it. They were hoping that, what tomorrow looks like would be a lot like what pre-pandemic times looked like. And now they've got a new challenge out in front. And so it's creating quite an emotional reaction, is what we saw in the survey.
Now, it's fortunate that many individuals have been able to sustain themselves during this pandemic. A lot of people hadn't lost their home. Not everybody. A lot of people were able to continue to keep up with their mortgage, their car note, and their rent, and still remain in the middle class. But for many, it has been hard and it has been difficult. So for those of you that have made it and you're doing pretty good, we're glad for you. And for those of you that are having a difficult time right now, it will not always last, as you well know. So hopefully things get back on track with the economy. Remember, like I just mentioned, there are a lot of jobs that are out there right now, and a lot of companies are realizing they have to offer you better pay, better incentives, make the work environment a lot safer. They can't sit back and just give a bonus to the corporate heads and not look out for the employees that are doing all the work. They realize that time is over. So hopefully over the next year, we get a chance to see a lot of companies making adjustments, because we're starting to see that right now. Well, my name is Andre of Mostly Money, and I'm here to give you all facts. No fake, no phony, and no fluffed up information when it comes to what's going on in politics today. And if you're interested in getting this information on a daily basis, well, you have made it to the right channel. All you need to do for yourself now is subscribe. Click that notification bell so you get the latest and greatest information coming from Mostly Money, because we promise to always be here for you and your loved ones. Well, I'm on my way to the comments section. I'll see you guys there. And if I don't get a chance to speak to you and you don't get a chance to speak to me, we are not going to fret about it, because I'll be speaking to you again mañana.